Welcome back to another episode of Cobra Kai Companion. I'm Peter. Continuing our seasonal tradition, I have Kristen Baldwin, TV critic from Entertainment Weekly, joining. How are you doing, Kristen?
Great. It's so good to see you. It's been a while, but I'm excited.
Yeah, writer strike and coming off of Obliterated. Yeah, it's been a while. New content and all the like. Let's see here. This is gonna drop post the 18th of the part one. So I don't know if you have anything coming out those first few days that you kind of want to kind of plug
Well,
real quick.
I will as of when this is out, I'll have a preview with the big three, but then I do have a postmortem with them and a postmortem interview with Sean Kanan. And I hope to have more over the course of the season, but those are the initial things you can look for.
Yeah, and anytime I see that you release a piece, I share it in my Facebook group too. So follow on
Oh,
the
thank you.
socials. I share all of your work. So before we get into our episode, we're gonna do top five callbacks, and we'll get to how we defined that term for the either of us,
Hmm.
and kind of strategery of how we came about those. But let's talk about season six, part one. I don't know if you have a circle that you talk to about the show.
I do. I have a friend who
Okay.
is a big fan, in addition to you, actually, I don't know if you've Reality Steve, that writer who covers The Bachelor and he's a blogger, reality TV blogger. He's a huge Cobra Kai fan. So he often texts me to, see if I've seen the episodes yet. But so I will certainly debrief with him and we have our email chats. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited to talk about it fully since, I haven't really had a chance to nerd out with somebody yet about it.
Well, we're gonna do that now. Um, right off the bat, big criticism. We didn't get the other cheek from Chosen.
I know. We only got one cheek.
Yeah.
And it was a butt double, right?
Yes, you
So
wrote the piece.
yes.
Yeah, you gifted us that.
So maybe the butt double was busy, and we didn't get the other cheek, but we did get the very short robe.
Yes.
So very close. We were hoping maybe, and I love the double take that Amanda does as soon as he walks into the kitchen. She's like about to have a nice sip of coffee, and then she's like, "Grown man in a tiny robe who is not my husband in my kitchen." Yeah,
Yeah. It's great. That's it's so exciting because we still have 10 more episodes, you
yeah.
know. Um, I haven't decided on one and kind of put you on the spot. Do you have like maybe a one word description for part one in your opinion?
One
I
word
could think of it like
description.
reset, it's they spent a lot of time kind of setting up for what I'm assuming is coming into parts two and three. Not gonna lie, like the first two episodes, I thought was a little slow. I
Mm-hmm,
love me
mm-hmm.
some dialogue and some meaty stuff, but it
Yeah.
was almost frustrating as a fan to see, especially Johnny and Daniel go through this all over again.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, the
exactly.
binary brothers, and I get what they're doing. They got
Yeah.
to be underdogs, and everybody's coming off like some sort of high from all the All Valley and stuff. But the first two episodes, I was just like, well, man, I know what we're doing, but why? But then
Yeah.
once Mike Barnes shows up, and then um episode five, I think is one of the best episode of the series thus
Yeah, no, I
far.
thought it was great. I guess I would say it's a two-word like breaking point because I feel like everyone's really
Mm,
pushed to not only does not everybody get to go to the Sekai Taikai, but even within, so even that's already stressful. And then the like multi-part process of getting that team narrowed down with Barnes's challenges and what happens with Devin and like everybody, and then of course how, and poor Tori who needs to get, like, they need to give her a break. I said this to the big three. I was like, can you please give her a break in part two or part three? But like everyone is kind of pushed to their edge and makes like these not necessarily impulsive, but like really sort of momentous, not necessarily in a good way, decisions, about
yeah.
how they're going to proceed.
and I'm not even sure if this word would have applied to, but like motivation.
Hmm.
I think part one does spend time uh kind of helping making us understand like their motivations to wanting to be captain, to wanting to
Yeah, yeah,
participate in the Sekai Taikai. Uh
yeah.
let's see here. Do you kind of remember that moment with the iPad and you see Gunther and he reveals, yeah. So I don't know if
Yeah.
you like how many times you went back and listened to like everything that he said. I feel somewhere in there he talks about like junior and senior. There's definitely
Oh, does
language where
he? Okay.
he does. So I'm like, senior, is that like the adults? Is that what that means?
Oh, that would be
So
incredible. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, the key there is that not everybody gets to go and that, the captains will have their own fights, which is
Hmm.
interesting if they make it that far. So we're leading toward a somebody versus Quan, fight. But I do, and I didn't truly understand like there's a girl captain and a boy captain, but are the girls going to be fighting the boys? Like it wasn't quite clear if there's like girls division, boys division, or if it's just like your team and then there is a girl captain and a boy captain. But I don't know. It was I look forward to discovering like the actual logistics of this tournament.
Oh, same. I think everyone's in the same boat. Just we're kind of doing that emoji.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know
Aw.
what is
Yeah.
going on with this world tournament.
Yeah.
Apparently, Mr. Miyagi has participated or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, dude,
And
let's
and got bloody
yeah.
somehow. Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about the box? If you have like a piece working, we don't have to go there. But
No, I mean, I did talk to the big three about this a little bit, just about like it's a big risk to sort of tamper with Mr.
mhm,
Miyagi's legacy and why did they because why did they choose to do that? And they gave a very interesting answer. And they do talk about why they thought it was important to, quote unquote, humanize him and put Daniel in a position where he has to, start realizing that this man he's idolized his whole life was a human being. And what does that mean for him? Because, obviously we've seen he's so very protective of Mr. Miyagi and his philosophy, but what does that mean when he has to learn that this man is made mistakes potentially and was a human being and maybe had things in his life that he wasn't proud of. So I think personally that it will maybe make Daniel a better sensei because honestly I feel like he's so rigid about Miyagi Do, and I know that's part of the conflict and part of the fun, but I do think him being able to maybe loosen his death grip on it can only be this way, karate can only be this way if you're doing it as Miyagi Do, that maybe that will help him and help his students. He can help give them more practical advice.
yeah, yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of us speculate that it's going to lead into like a prequel spin-off, and that's kind of what we're
Mm,
hoping, with
that would be
the young Miyagi.
interesting.
Because
Yeah.
you introduce a few different things, and obviously I've only seen part one. And so like there's boxing gloves, so there's this boxing gym that
Hmm.
has a story tied to it. Kisuke Miyagi, kind of bringing in the next Karate Kid that much closer in
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of that callback.
Yeah.
you know. So you mentioned Death Grip, and I immediately thought about Master Kim,
Oh,
holding up,
yeah.
little Sensei Kim, just like,
I
well, Darth
know.
Vader, okay.
I know it's very Darth Vader. And by the way, like still alive, this man, like
Right,
tell me what are his longevity secrets,
right.
But
Yeah,
I love that he's like, I have to stay alive because, he says to, Master Kim, he's like, or to his granddaughter, I have to stay alive because you're a disappointment or
yeah.
whatever. Like so harsh.
And
But
this is why she's like not a master sensei yet because of
yeah.
like what happened in the US. Yeah, there's more to that. And on the subject of like Star Wars, I don't know if you caught Kreese's little dialogue to Tori in episode 5 where he goes, "I am your sensei." I was like, can we get any more Darth Vader?
That's amazing. Yeah, that's true. And yeah, I love that. I love that whole scene with her in the parking. Man, poor Tori. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
she just needs to have a good day at one point because this
right.
is it's just been one hit after the other, figuratively and literally. So
I literally.
yeah.
Let's talk about some things that you felt maybe didn't work, or that maybe at least for part one, I was like, nah, we can miss this, skip this.
I mean, do I okay. And I did ask the big three about this, and they did give me an answer, but I'm going to say that I had a big they didn't give me a clear answer, but they gave me an answer like, can we just, I know this is a TV show and we have to put aside our, suspension of, we got to have some suspension of disbelief, but Kreese is a man who has escaped from prison. So can someone explain to me how he's gotten from California to Korea and back while the FBI presumably, and maybe I assume the TSA have been looking for him. Like, how did that happen? You can read their answer, which is pretty funny, but it's that was a little like that was very distracting to me. I didn't love the whole thing with the Cobra and him going to get like him having to go get the knife and he's proving himself. I was like, I wasn't quite clear. Like, what is he's proving that he's worthy of bringing this style of karate to the tournament, I guess.
I took it as it was about the prize, not the
Yeah.
mission, and what was holding Kreese back to being like the ultimate, badass in their perspective is his weakness of Johnny. And
Mm.
so I guess you have to place him in this cave so he can get bit, get a little delirious, and then come
and confront with Johnny
confront
and
Johnny
confront
and
Johnny and
yeah,
and kill him basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
break his neck,
I get it. It
finish
was
off
it was
what
just a little,
yeah.
yeah. It
No,
was a little
Miyagi just saved Johnny
overwrought.
this time.
True. It was
Yeah.
a little overwrought for me, but I also get that that's this character and so yeah. And I felt really bad for Kenny. I'm not saying this didn't work, but I felt like that was really bad for Kenny. But I like where it's going in that like he thinks that Anthony is the one who sabotaged him. So that's probably not gonna go anywhere good in part two for poor Anthony.
Right. And on the flip side of that, the whole stuff with Devin,
Mm.
how she got to be selected, like kind of like Mr. Miyagi. I guess, he's not so perfect like Devin. I was like, well, I was a little disappointed in Devin, and
Yeah, yeah.
I understand like she was recalling something that Johnny told her, so like inadvertently Johnny kind of like, you know,
Exactly. And he was saying to her prior to the, capture the flag, he's like, you're the most cutthroat person, you know, I know. And you're saying it in a way where he's like, look, you're tough enough, but she's thinking, oh, okay. So it must, he must think that this is the kind of thing, I would do and I should do. So yeah, I do. I hope that that has, and I'm sure it will, but when that is discovered or when she confesses, that will, lead to some interesting payoff there. Because yeah, I don't like to see, uh, her go down that path. But and poor Kenny, my God, poor Kenny. Kenny needs a break too.
yeah, yeah, his brother just came back and uh let's see. Well, Sakai guy is gonna be in Barcelona. I don't know. Spain, Germany, that's right, not too far of a travel, right? His dad's gonna
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
stationed
but
there.
was he saying he was hoping the Sekai Taikai was in Germany, right? So he could see his dad. I assume he'll
Mm,
be back in California, just like
yeah,
rooting from afar, but who knows?
yeah. A lot of interesting things. Well, what about the house hunting? I know we're kind of putting Johnny in more situations where he can make decisions on his
Yeah,
own, and, like a regular as adult.
yeah,
But
exactly. I,
yeah, do you take anything else from that?
I loved, I love that they just had him together with Chosen. And I love that like they tied into Chosen's, we already know that he's like gotten obsessed with reality TV, and it's not just Married at First Sight or whatever it was. Now he's watching like Selling Sunset and all of that. So I love that he was the like, fake realtor going with him. And so I enjoyed seeing them together. And one of my favorite callbacks that we will discuss comes during that sequence. But I do think uh, it was a little. I like the way that they tied it to, Chosen telling him like Miyagi-Do isn't just about when you're in the dojo. It's about like how you interact with people in life. And when, that snooty salesman is,
Yes.
sort of giving him the brush off, he takes a deep breath and doesn't punch him in the face. So, but I love any combination of like Johnny with Chosen or Johnny with Barnes or any of that. So,
Yeah. Speaking of Barnes, what do you think about that table saw? Were you just so scared somebody was going to lose an arm?
I mean, no, because of course not. And so it was just kind of hilarious. Like, it was funny because, of course, the table saw has to be going, but it was also like the stakes were zero because we know they're not going to cut off either their arms or fingers or anything like, or give somebody a gash in the head. But I did love that fight. I thought that was great that they got to just like throw down for real. And then, at the end, do me a favor, one bad boy to another. I just thought that was a really, because, they have a lot in common, uh, and that's another like buddy spinoff I would love to see.
That would be great. Actually, I've never even considered a spin-off of just those two because we are
Hmm.
always, thinking about Johnny and Daniel, obviously.
Yeah.
But I like that. And Johnny on two occasions has already said like I like this guy. He's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
in 5'10" and then what? Yeah, I guess 6'04". So
Yeah. No, they
yeah,
they definitely like that would be, instead of an opposites attract type buddy comedy, it would be like just two bad boys, but who are actually good guys, you know, making their way through the world. I think that would be hilarious.
like the two consequences, or something.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
half of the quartet, I guess.
Yeah.
What else? How about the new guys, the new blood? What do you think about their introduction?
Uh
Directed by Ralph, no less.
like Quan and
Quan
yeah.
and
Oh,
Yoon.
I love them. I thought I really like that Quan is this, sort of cocky, and he seems even sort of more sinister than Johnny was at his worst in that, like I'm sure at some point maybe we'll see the softer side of him, but like I like that he's just ready to like he doesn't even like his own teammates. He just
Okay,
wants to, dominate. And so I did think that's great that he's now the captain. And yeah, I think there's a nice energy to this new group of like, daunting opponents for the Miyagi-Do students. And I mean, I just think that actor, Brandon Lee, is so charismatic and just he's and like gorgeous. And so I just think he's going to be a big hit with
I think
fans.
so. Oh yeah, I made a video. I think I put it on X as well, but it was just basically introducing the character of Quan played by Brendan H. Lee, and I just compiled like all his stunt videos and
Yeah.
stuff. And on Instagram, somebody says my new husband, and his
Yeah.
dad liked that comment. So yeah,
Maybe they're anxious to get him married and have some
it could
grandkids,
be.
but yeah, but no, I just think he's a real like he has real star quality, and obviously he's been working in stunts and stunt work and done some other small acting things, but I think this will be huge for him.
I think so. I'm already thinking, comparisons. You were talking about how he doesn't even care that he will fight his own teammates. That's
Yeah,
kind of like Robbie in season 4, except for that
yeah,
I don't think he had completely embraced Cobra Kai yet, but
yeah.
he joined and fought everybody just fine. So it's kind of like Robbie, but with more arrogance and the colors of
Exactly.
chosen
And
predicate
and
too.
we don't know yet, but I would love to know like with Robbie, obviously, he's had this very difficult life. With Tori, she's had a difficult life. Like, where is and Johnny, certainly, even though he was a popular kid, we know his home life was very difficult. So, like, that caused him to be a bully. Like, what's up with Quan? Like, I do wonder about parents that send their kids off to like train with a psycho karate master in the woods all for hours all day and all night, and does he have parents? Where are they? Like, what's his backstory that led him to be this aggressive and cocky and really violent? So it'll be interesting to find that out if we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think we've touched on a lot of that stuff. Maybe just I guess we kind of talked a little bit about Tori as well and everything she went through. Really painful. Um, okay, so this I thought was a little cheesy, but I still had a good time with it. But the slumber party with Johnny.
I mean, that is one of my favorite callbacks. I don't know if we
Yeah,
want to start talking callbacks, but
we'll end it with this
I
part. Yeah,
yeah, well, I loved that whole scene. Like I just that whole sequence because I thought it was so funny, the callback being that like, oh, because obviously he's trying to get Sam and Tori to get their edge back. And so he thinks, I'm gonna drive a wedge between them. And the best way to do that is a slumber party. And I believe he says to Devin, like, oh, I used to hear about Allie's slumber parties all the time, nonstop drama. And I loved that as a callback, thinking of him like gossiping with her, back in the day. But then, of course, uh, all his efforts, to get them to fight, like with the Ouija board and the, flicking Tori's ear when they were doing the masks and all of that. And the best thing about it is that it's like Johnny often like fails his way into success. And that's exactly what happened here because like they did fight ultimately. Tori and Sam did have a fight while they were waiting for their Uber, but then they hug it out. So they didn't stay mad. So he failed. And yet that clearing the air was what got them to be able to, fight each other hard as they need to train for the tournament. So I just love that the way that whole thing's, so Johnny can be like, I told you,
yeah.
even though his plan didn't actually work. Yeah, but I just thought that was hilarious. Oh, and him explaining the text to Devin where he's like, drop the zero and come with the hero. He's like, you see, Robbie's the zero and Miguel's the hero or whatever. She's like, yeah, I got it.
Again, and we're all Devin in that moment. Like
Yeah, like
that's the part of me. I'm like, okay, this is funny, but can we make Johnny not this stupid?
yeah,
Like the whole part
but
where the text from Miguel was, "Hey, mamacita." Like, come
yeah,
on.
yeah.
When have we heard Miguel talk like that? So it was just a little too much. I was just like,
Yeah,
there's could have been something else, but it's very much peak Johnny, for
yeah, it
sure.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's segue into to the callbacks. You gave a really great one, the parallel of him, like trying to help Robbie and Miguel in season 5, and now doing it with Sam and Tori. And again, I love that conversation between Tori and Sam, just
Yeah.
how it was just so organic the way it played out, and how both were so apologetic and forgiving
And
of one another.
bringing up things, like the whole conversation was full of callbacks, like you accused me
Cheating,
of is cheating, you accused me of stealing your uh mom's
purse,
wallet,
yeah,
like all that stuff. And then what I loved was that Sam, just took a beat and she was, and she said, you're right, I made I I'm sorry, I should have apologized a long time ago. I just thought that was a really nice way to like it felt like you said it felt organic, but it was a very real authentic conversation where they go over these, you know, long sort of simmering uh hurts, that they just haven't really talked out. And I do think that will, and just as they do it, what happens? Tori has to go join the evil dojo. But I did think, we know why Tori is in that headspace. So hopefully she can see the light again.
I hope so. It's a very difficult headspace to go through. They've been setting it up since her introduction, and
Hmm.
I'll say this, and then we'll get into our list. But in that conversation with Sam, I think that this part one for sure. I haven't seen Tori in this way like before as a character. But the line that really stuck out in that even as a viewer to me made me like, oh shit, yeah, she's I've never even thought about it that way. But she said she was already, and I'm paraphrasing, but she's already like the bad guy before she even made friends or
Mm-hmm.
something
Mm-hmm.
like that. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like
She didn't
she
even have a
she
chance.
she didn't have a chance, and then, so no wonder she's still carrying that, you know, resentment and sadness about it. But yeah, she's had a rough go of it. She needs a break.
She does. Okay, so the term callback, what was, how did you define it and how did you compile your list?
Well, I defined it as either, something that referenced a specific plot point or something earlier in the Cobra Kai season, or in seasons, past episodes, or as something that referenced the canon from the movies. So I have for example, and in the case of the slumber party, like that was like just what I loved about that too is like I don't think we ever in the movie ever heard him talking to Allie about the slumber party. So it was like almost this opening this door into like a fan fiction world of like conversations they could have had. But it was a callback certainly to his relationship with Allie, and that him understanding he's like girls are easy because he thinks he knows how to raise a daughter because he had a girlfriend in high school. And so I did that. I sort of anything that really felt to me like an obvious little nod to the past. What about
Yeah,
you?
pretty much the same. And I kind of started off with callbacks from the show, and then it kind of bled in a little bit into like the Karate Kid movies. I don't
Yeah,
have them
yeah,
numbered in any specific.
yeah,
I
no,
just
yeah.
listed. Um, oh gosh, I had a point I was gonna make. It was I wonder if I was gonna add. No. Oh, okay. So the slumber party. Let's see what I have. Maybe we should just start there.
Yeah, why
Uh,
don't we?
let's see here. Okay. The first one I have listed is a callback from season 4, and this happened in episode 5 after her mother's passing, and we get that great flashback of young Tori
Mm,
and her mom and the
yeah,
bruised forearm. A lot of the take from the flashback, but there she talks about the mermaid princess. The
yeah.
drawing that
Oh
she made.
yes. Oh right.
Call back to her wearing the mermaid outfit at previous
At the
job
birthday party.
in the birthday party, yeah, and that story. And so thinking about it right now is giving me chills, goosebumps,
Uh,
just because when I made that connection on my first watch, I was just like, oh my God, that's that makes that scene even more hurtful for Tori.
exactly,
Even though she
exactly.
blew like kisses, with the middle fingers, now
Yeah.
now it adds layers to that. And I can go back and rewatch that and be like, damn it, Sam, that's a little shitty because I know now,
Yeah, exactly.
even more
And
shitty.
exactly. That's I'm not sure I even made that connection, but I do love that because yeah, that was, now you understand why, maybe that was the reason she was able to like obviously she had to take a job because she needs to support her mom and her brother, but like maybe that made the job a little better for her, like a little less degrading, like
Mhm.
because I'm sure any teenage girl does not want to like go do that job, but like maybe that was how she got through it every day. And then to have Sam, uh to have that whole conflict with Sam at the birthday party, yeah, that's
Absolutely.
actually really sweet.
Yeah, because like you said, for a 16, 17-year old, I don't want to just say girl, but any sort of silly costume at a birthday
Yeah,
party must be embarrassing, especially if you see your peers,
yeah, and yeah,
and so
exactly, yeah.
yeah, and like you said, she's just trying to get through it, and so she's thinking happy thoughts. This is, like this memory I have with my mom when she was well and I was
Hmm.
younger. And so yeah, that connection just kind of, making the world feel a little bit bigger, just
Yeah,
kind of like how you said the thing with the summer party and Johnny and Allie's relationship, because we don't know a whole lot about it, and so that
yeah,
these little nuggets kind of are nice.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so my first one is I love uh in the first episode of part one, It's peacetime in the valley. Everybody's doing great. Daniel is driving and he sees the workers throwing the Cobra Kai sign in the trash. And it just made me think immediately of, I believe it's season 1, episode 2, when when he first learns that Cobra Kai is back, he's driving and he looks up and he sees the Cobra Kai sign on the strip mall. And it's like he has this intense flashback PTSD moment. And I just love the full circle of that like he thinks, like I've finally defeated them. The sign is going in the trash and it's over. And obviously, like, of course, Cobra Kai never dies. So it's not over. But I love in that moment, he's probably thinking like it's been a long road to get here, but we're finally done. And, I just like that sort of idea of him thinking everything's going to be fine and knowing that it's not.
Yeah, and it's kind of a nice bookend, at least
Yeah.
in his mind, with the seasons 1 and 6. Yeah, I picked up on that, and then then see Eagle Fang torn down too.
Oh, I
Like
know.
all the I mean not all the, but I'm sure there's a lot of hardcore Johnny fans gonna be like, oh, fucking Daniel did it. Like he called the city and had both
Yeah,
Cobra Kai and
exactly.
Eagle Fang torn down.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't actually clear why they were torn down. I mean, I know it was just an abandoned warehouse, right? That he had
Yeah,
just kind of taken over, but so probably they're tearing it down to build like condos or something.
yeah. I know
Yeah.
it was sad, but I was just like, of course they're gonna leave like the one recognizable thing, the big old eagle fang.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I felt really bad for Johnny there. My next one I have is so I didn't have the exact episode that it reminded me of, but in episode, oh, I think this is still episode 601. Johnny's at the pawn shop with Lyle, the pawn shop guy, and he ends up leaving, paying for a battle axe, but was short and
For
had
sure.
Daniel pick it up. Yeah, and he did that in season 4 as well at a bar
Yeah.
where I think it was actually, now that I think about it, it might be 405 match point, because I think that's the same episode where they have the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, and the way that Daniel's just like, oh yeah, I know. Like, of course
like,
he's short. Like
yeah,
he's just used to it. And
yeah.
so, and he just immediately pulls out his wallet. And the fact that the pawn shop guy is like looking to Daniel, like, this is your partner, you got to pay for him. So I thought that was really funny. I love those scenes in the pawn shop. I think they're really fun. Like,
Well,
um,
why do you think we had that one in this here? I have I'll use the term loosely theory, but I'm thinking we're gonna see a lot of familiar faces as a send off for the character.
yeah, it's possible. Yeah. And I do think, uh, I'm sure that in this last, and the big three did say, just in general, one of the reasons they have 15 episodes is they really want to give, as many characters as they can, a good conclusion. And so I think it's possible that, yeah, it's a funny scene, call back to Rocky, what is it, Rocky Four or
Oh
whatever,
yeah,
like, and just also all the callbacks this season to Johnny's love of like 80s movies, like Best of the Best or whatever. And, with Eric Roberts, his shoulder's gone and then it's miraculously healed. Um,
in that
so I
scene,
think,
I can't forget the whole grab his nuts, twist, twist, twist,
yeah,
twist, twist.
twist, twist, twist. Yeah. Yeah. He's, he's
And
doing
they
his
commit.
best he's doing his best to embrace Miyagi-Do in his own way. Yeah.
It's kata, it's the
Yeah.
Johnny kata.
Yeah.
Let me see. So back to you.
Okay, so well, this is another Johnny one. I loved, we talked about the house hunting, and I loved when the snooty realtor, he sees the car, the Eagle Fang van, and he's like, is that your car? And once Johnny kind of insults him and says he has a stupid haircut and all of that, the realtor calls him a degenerate.
Mm.
I'm not gonna rent this property to some degenerate, which is of course, a callback to the first Karate Kid movie when Johnny's described as an ace degenerate. And then, of course, that became an episode title. And I like that because it's interesting that, like you said, Johnny's trying to be a grown ass man. He's got a growing family. He needs to, find a place to live that isn't, leaking sewage. And the fact that the past, that he's worked so hard to overcome is still kind of haunting him. This idea that he's a degenerate and he'll never be anything but that. When in fact we know, he's a good guy. He just sometimes doesn't lead with his head. But I think that was also why Chosen was talking to him about Miyagi-Do and like, you've got to like, this is a philosophy for life, not just for the mat. And hopefully that will help Johnny get where he needs to be as he tries to set up, good credit and, a savings account and things that he needs to raise his growing family.
Yeah, he's gonna need to learn some things like what a Bluetooth is, and so he needs to learn some of this stuff before he
It's
can
got all
open
the
up.
teeth you need.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great line from Michael John Smith.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. Let me pick it back on that scene, or the part two of that scene where we see DJ Candy Corn from Obliterated,
Oh my
Adam
gosh.
Hirschman. Um, this kind of I thought of this when you talked about the Alley Slumber Party line, and little Stevie here who moonwalks to class or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Got to be ad-libbed. I don't know, but he talks about seeing Johnny at the 83 All Valley, but missed the 84.
Yeah, he's like, did you see the 84? Yeah, that was such a good and of course it's like
No, I missed that one.
you can tell that Johnny's like this has been a recurring theme in his life, like that he's nobody ever remembers that one. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I love that.
And let me see. So that's okay. So that's me next, right? You have the realtor. Okay, so this one is a callback from the first movie. So in the
Mm-hmm.
first episode, when we have like the double date, um, and then our core captains, no, they're not core captains. What am I calling? Tori, Miguel, the double
The
date
core
when they run
four.
into
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, when they run into Sean and Kenny, and Robbie tries to talk to Kenny. Kenny's playing like I think Space Invaders or Space
Yeah.
Invasion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Robbie jumps in front of it. It's like, don't shoot, just like Daniel did to Allie in the first movie.
Oh, that was sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love anytime they go to golf and stuff. I did you were asking me before, like, you know, did I think there was anything that didn't work? And it's not that it didn't work, but I really honestly don't believe that Miguel and Robbie would like, not that they wouldn't care, but like I felt like they were pushing a little too hard to try to get their girlfriends to be friends. And it's like, I don't know. It just seemed like they were maybe I'm selling teenage boys a little short here, but I guess I thought maybe that this was not be something that they would be this sort of like concerned about, like, oh, we've got to figure out a way to get these two to be friends. It's like I think they would in my I understand why for the story they did it, but I do think it's a little like, okay, take a step back, boys. They'll figure it out, but I guess we're just supposed to, they want them to work through their differences. Tori and Sam, just like Robbie and Miguel, ultimately worked through their differences.
Right. Because I think it's not until a little bit later on when Devin calls it out, like they're holding back,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, there's
yeah.
something there. So like the boys haven't picked up on that yet. But in episode three, Carmen talks about how it's been, or is it Carmen or Amanda? Somebody mentions 3 months, and
Oh,
so
right, right.
Carmen's able to show that she has a belly bump now. So just imagine how awkward it is still, and when we first see them like in the backyard doing kata, and I think
Yeah,
Tori's kicking the punching bag or whatever. Um, yeah, there's the tension, so I can see a little bit of a motivation, I think, for those two boys
yeah.
to try to help figure things out, just
Try
to make
to,
it less
yeah,
awkward for everybody. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think, I just didn't know that we needed to see them again on a sort of like awkward date or whatever, but I ultimately understand where
Oh, and maybe we just needed another fight at golf and stuff, and it's like, hey, this is where Robbie needs to like save Kenny and do right by him.
yeah,
Maybe that
yeah,
could be it.
yeah.
Speaking of, I like the little callback to punching the ball. That
Oh
Miguel
yeah,
does
yeah,
one
yeah. Yeah,
kind of like Daniel
exactly.
did. So I
Yeah.
think the fans were really talking about that when the trailer dropped. Like, oh, that's the thing from
The
season
golf
five.
and stuff. Yeah, 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 exactly. No, I think that's good. All right, so it's my turn, right? So oh, okay. So this is in episode 4. When Barnes is determining who's gonna be the team for the Sekai Taikai, and Anthony gets a bloody nose from Kenny. Daniel rushes him inside the house and is like trying to clean him up. And Anthony's obviously embarrassed, and Daniel says, "Oh, it's just a bloody nose. You should have seen the time I got spaghetti spilled all," and he doesn't even finish his sentence. And Anthony interrupts him and says, like, "Why did you lie to me that underdogs have a shot?" But obviously that's a callback to the Karate Kid. And when, Daniel sneaks into the Encino Oaks Country Club and is looking longingly through the kitchen door at Allie and Johnny on the dance floor, and then of course collides with a waiter. And I will say, I've never understood why in that moment Daniel was wearing all white with a red jacket, but like obviously it works for the scene because then the
Yeah.
spaghetti sauce gets all over him. But it's like, what teenage boy walks around in an all white t-shirt and shorts or pants, slacks? But I did love that. I love that he was like, because also as a parent, I love that he's like trying to share something with his son about like, I've been in this position. I can tell you your embarrassment fades, but like Anthony doesn't even want to hear it. He doesn't even let him finish his sentence. He's like, because and that is so relatable as a parent. Like you're trying to impart some, life experience, and they're like, mom, dad, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, and not that I need like a lot more from Anthony in dialogues or anything, but I was just thinking about, oh, just a couple seasons ago, Ralph, not Ralph, but Daniel broke his iPad, so
Yeah, yeah.
there could still be something there in the dynamic between those two characters. But it would have been funny, like had he finished that line and then takes a beat and says something like, I think that happened to your sister too, because it did. Same
Yeah,
country club.
exactly. So, but yeah, I do, and I understand, like it's obviously all placing the seeds for whatever's going to happen between Kenny and Anthony, in part 2 or part 3, because, obviously Anthony still has a lot of resentment toward Kenny for bullying him. And now Kenny thinks that Anthony is the one who put the laxative powder in his water. So I do think there's, it's not over between those two for sure.
Yeah, no, not at all. I it was kind of nice people kind of forget like what grade some of these characters are. I think a lot of people see like, oh, the first day of school, and they forget that this is also Anthony and Kenny's first day at high school.
Yeah, which
You
is,
know,
yeah, a big transition, and especially both for kids who feel somewhat alienated or feel like underdogs, and poor Kenny already feels like adrift because, he was essentially left into his karate cult, as the brother called it, by Robbie, and then, and has nowhere to go, nowhere to put his anger now. So
right, right. Let's see. I have this one. I don't know if it's an actual callback, but I saw a connection nonetheless. This is when we see Brooks again. So
yeah,
lots of callbacks in that character alone. But at one point, Brooks is playing a Pac-Man arcade game, and Dimitri wore a Pac-Man suit in season
yes,
4.
oh, love the
Yeah.
Pac-Man suit.
So
Yeah.
don't know if that. I mean, nothing they do is everything's intentional. So it could be a coincidence still, but I just like the little connection there that I don't know, maybe Dimitri was playing Pac-Man, and then
Yeah.
Brooks came over and they just had that conversation. So
Yeah. And this is a small one for me, but in episode 5, when they're talking about Stanford and who's going to go where and whatever, Sam just makes this offhand reference. Oh, I heard Aisha got into UC Santa Cruz. Obviously, I just like I still haven't really gotten over it that, Aisha is no longer a part of the show, but because I think it's kind of sad, but I like that they maintain this idea that she and Sam are still in touch.
Yeah, I think that's really sweet. And it's just John's been really championing the fandom. Everybody has, but
Yeah.
uh, encouraging us to go back and rewatch these scenes. And it would be nice if you did that, and then like Aisha still kind of fresh in your mind, and you get that little nugget that Sam still talks to her. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My next one, actually, this is the last one that I have, but I have a few that I could just toss out as well.
Yeah.
Uh, this one takes place in episode 3 at the boxing gym. Chosen is taping up Shane Page, which is the new character here that owns the gym, like Miyagi does to Daniel in the Karate Kid.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I like that one. Yeah, that was a whole funny. I like the way they all walked into that gym in their like nice clothes, and Amanda looks great in her like black dress or heels and whatever, and they're in this like sort of seedy part of town, but I thought that was an interesting scene, and obviously we get some more information there about what happened with Mr. Miyagi, or some pieces of information, but yeah, that is a good callback.
Yeah.
So I have a couple more, just small ones.
Okay.
I like so when Johnny goes to see Barnes in the wood shop, because he's really hoping that Devin will get a spot on the team, and he doesn't necessarily think that, partly it's his fault because he was distracting Barnes by arguing with him during one of the trials for Sekai, getting part of the Sekai Tekai team. So he goes and says, can you just make sure Devin got a fair shake? But before they're fighting and they're exchanging words, and Johnny says, "You weren't a champion, you were a goon for hire." Obviously a callback to Karate Kid 3, where Mike Barnes was essentially hired by Terry Silver to, he was a goon for hire to torment and defeat Daniel. And that, you can tell that still, touches a nerve with Barnes, and of course they clear the air by beating the crap out of each other, and then just like with Sam and Tori, they seem to have a path forward after that.
Well, in that same line of dialogue, Mike Barnes calls Johnny Cream Puff.
Yeah.
And that's a direct callback from the '84 All Valley where somebody called, Johnny, you're a cream puff.
Yeah.
So
No, it's so good. I love that, but and there were a couple things like that where again, to Karate Kid, where Daniel, like I believe in episode 1, was talking to Amanda about how it's peaceful, it's quiet, and he said, after we defeated Terry Silver last time, we got like 30 years of peace.
yeah.
Just yeah, so I do enjoy that, how casually they sort of throw those things in, especially with, because if you really thought about it, if this were really your life, you would be like, what is happening? My life is so strange, and like, why do I keep having all these nemesis come out of the woodwork?
Yeah.
But and speaking of Terry Silver, do we think he's going to come back in part 2 or part 3? What's your
Oh,
opinion?
in my opinion, probably part 2.
You think so?
Yeah, because they already spent the entire part 1 without him, and
Yeah.
you don't bring Thomasine Griffith out of like retirement and
Yeah.
underutilize him in the final season. So yeah,
And
that's
and
my guess.
we have to assume that he has all the money in the world, so I'm sure he's got a high profile lawyer who's getting him uh, you know, off of the hook for attempted murder or whatever it
Right.
was. So
Whatever it is, yeah, because in that first episode, Amanda talks about I'm forgetting the dialogue, but she talks about a hearing or something. So it's like early stage of something.
oh,
Like he
does she?
hadn't
Okay.
been actually convicted.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah. I've
yeah.
seen part 1 like at least 6 times now, but I think I still need to do another run through
Yeah.
to get some more details
Get some
fresh
more
in the head here.
details. Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot. The more I watch it, I gotta say, the more I watch it, the more I am enjoying it, because of the little things that I missed
That
previously.
you pick up, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think, that makes sense. The first time I watched it, I was just watching it. I was just like letting it wash over me. And then like the second time I watched it, I was like really trying to, because I was able to then I knew what the story was. I could kind of focus on like pulling the little details
Mm,
out here and there. But
yeah,
yeah.
100%. It's I actually it just occurred to me that this was the first time that I actually recorded myself watching it live in real time. And
Oh,
so I have these reactions, and so I'm sure there's a lot of dead air where I'm just like staring at the screen, and a few times where I'll look at the camera and say like, "Oh, something, something, something." And so
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of times that I'm sure I'm missing what was going on screen, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense."
yeah.
So yeah, I was talking, and so I wasn't paying attention as much, but uh, so the biggest callback, and I brought it up earlier, is Kisuki Miyagi,
Mm,
the name on the passport.
yeah.
What do you know about that name?
Very little, I'll be honest. So what can you tell me about that name?
Okay, so the very first time we heard Kisuki Miyagi was in The Next Karate Kid. Did you see that
Okay.
one?
No.
Okay.
I'll admit I'm
Um,
not a completist. So yeah.
a lot of people are like, well, Daniel's not in it, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
and I understand that, but I guess there's a reason that years ago John said, yeah, that's canon because it has Mr. Miyagi in it. So anything with Mr.
Yeah.
Miyagi has always been canon, and people always said, well, his name is Nariyoshi in The Next Karate Kid, it's Kisuki, and so that's
Hmm.
been brought up like over years, and so now we're finding out that there's a passport that says Kisuki Miyagi. That's why Chosen's like, oh, does he have a brother? Because we're
Yeah.
coming up with all types of theories in the fandom, like, oh, it's alternate universe Miyagi, and all these things, and like, no, that's the cartoon Miyagi,
Yeah.
that's in that movie. And so, Watch Party, who I covered the episodes with, he mentioned, what do we do recently? I think. Oh no, no, he made a video himself about
Hmm.
Mr. Miyagi and the box and his theories on that. He didn't get to see part one, but he made a really great observation that the date of birth on Mr. Miyagi's tombstone might have been an error. They were just trying to age him up and have him be a part of the LaRusso's lives before passing away.
I see.
Be a big part. And so by doing that, I think he's like extremely young to have served in the army. And so
Yeah.
now they have to retcon that, change the date. And so, but the whole idea that they're even bringing in the name Kisuki Miyagi I think is going to make most people, if not everybody, think that a Julie Pierce return is imminent. I think that's
Yeah.
the right
No.
word. Yeah,
Yeah, no. I mean, obviously that's the one that has eluded us so
right.
far. And so that would really be interesting. Yeah, and it would make sense for it would be great for this to bring them together, Daniel and Julie together, because, like you said, he's not in that movie, but she has experience with this. This is a part of his life, Mr. Miyagi's life, that Daniel, we don't know what he was doing, but he was not part of it. So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for everything to kind of fall into place. Because just when they dropped that poster, I was just like, "What? There's the damn headband in there. Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing?"
Yeah.
And what I guess, and you can't see it on the show, and whoever did the poster obviously put the items in very specific places so you could see them a little bit better. I didn't know there was a gi in that box until the poster
Oh,
came out.
okay.
Did you miss
Oh,
the gi or did
okay.
you see that?
I think I missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really tucked under there, but the headband you could kind of see it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so when Daniel has that revelation and you go back to that first or the third episode and you if you're looking for it, you're like, "Oh, there's that
Oh, there
headband."
it is.
So
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
is there. But the gi was like, "Oh no, I didn't see the gi before until the poster came out." So it sounds like either Mr. Miyagi did find the Sekai Taikai, or this is something of a student, maybe. You talked about the blood on that headband.
Yeah.
Is that Mr.
Yeah.
Miyagi's blood, or is that a student's blood? Is that why he stopped training, maybe? Is that why
Yeah.
he never
No.
got as close to Daniel? Because I love this one thing that oh gosh, I forgot. I'd be really embarrassed if it was with you, but with John, Josh, and Hayden recently, no, I think it was Netflix or Sony, but they did the cast's favorite quotes, from
Okay.
the Karate Kid,
Yeah.
and Josh shared "You Pretty Okay Too," which is like my favorite,
Yeah.
and that has always stuck with me. Like, well, why can't Mr. Miyagi tell me those Daniel? Like
Yeah.
that's basically like his
That's an
surrogate son.
interesting point. Yeah. So maybe there's
I think,
this,
yeah,
he's holding back because there's some trauma
right,
there with a past student. And, as the big three said in terms of Mr. Miyagi's past and him not telling Daniel everything, that's, as parents, we do it, and it's, they say don't meet your heroes. It just means that nobody is flawless the way. And Daniel has really kind of gotten to a point where I think it's like borderline, you know, uh like it's unhealthy the way that
mm,
he sort of uh deifies Mr. Miyagi, and I think this will be good for him. Whatever the story is and whatever the truth is behind what happened with Mr. Miyagi, I think it will only make Daniel like I feel like it'll almost be a weight off his shoulders in some ways to learn that like it's okay for everyone to be human, including your father figure, your mentor.
right. It's almost kind of like like I'm thinking about, I forgot what season it was, but when Daniel was looking at one of his photos and he's talking about, like I'm forgetting the dialogue, but he's talking about how he doesn't think he can do it. It's like big shoes to
Mhm.
fill, that kind of thing. So he's, in a sense, kind of, and no fault but his own. I feel that like he feels like he's kind of been like in Miyagi's shadows,
Yeah, yeah,
and so
yeah,
yeah, maybe as he goes on this journey and finds more about Mr. Miyagi, maybe he could find that balance and not try so hard to possibly be who he thinks this Mr. Miyagi is. It's like, you're
right.
right. Like he's he fought in the war and he couldn't have done great things in the war. I did a
Yeah,
deep dive video on what I think he went through to have earned all those medals and stuff because I
yeah,
served myself. And
yeah,
so even I kind of flirted with the idea of like, this badass Miyagi aggressive side that he didn't teach Daniel for reasons. There's a lot there that
yeah,
can be explored, and that's why I think a lot of us feel that there's a spinoff, just because they're kind of dropping layers. And you introduce these things, and unless it pays off on the show, then otherwise you're kind of giving us things that like seems that it could be like a limited series, and it's like, oh, we know about this
yeah.
headband, so that's gonna come into play at some point. So I've and with 10 episodes, I'm like, how do you run those two stories parallel to like what's going on with everybody else?
Right, because
So
there's
I
so
don't know.
many characters to service. So I do like that idea. I think that you're definitely onto something, that maybe this leads wherever it leads the characters of Cobra Kai, it will open a door to learn that will lead to a whole new story, a prequel story with Mr. Miyagi. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think Zoom liked what you said. Did you see the little thumbs up?
Oh, did it? Oh, I
Yeah,
thought I was, yeah. Okay.
right, right. That came up in one of my interviews one time, and the actress, she's like, "What the hell is that?" I go,
Yeah.
Zoom.
It's so
Yeah, I really
weird.
figure
Like
out.
Zoom, I don't need you to anyway.
I I was thinking about like how the show could possibly end, or at least the very least this journey that Daniel goes on to rediscovering who Mr. Miyagi
Hmm.
might have actually been, because all we know is that Daniel's karate hasn't really gone further than the valley, right? Mr. Two-time All Valley, and
Yeah.
I love that dialogue between Barnes and Johnny in episode 4, because it's almost a reminder too, when Johnny tells him like, yeah, I've done All Valley. He's like, well, how's National?
Yeah. Yeah.
That like there are bigger stages outside the
Yeah.
valley. And so how cool would it be that Daniel goes on this journey and then he comes to find that Mr. Miyagi has touched a lot more people than he knew,
Yeah.
and I guess now that I think about it, I'm already like shooting it down because it's like, well, then how come other people aren't spreading, like his karate, like Daniel is or something. I don't know. See, just kind of more
Well,
questions.
yeah, exactly. But I also think it might relieve him of the burden of thinking that like it's all on him to
Mm,
maintain this legacy if he
mm,
realizes that the legacy is maintaining itself in a lot of different ways. And it's a little like, you know, he should realize that there are other people out there in the world who benefited from Mr. Miyagi, and it's not just all on him. Chosen is obviously another one, and like, so yeah, maybe he just needs to decenter himself
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit more.
Speaking of Chosen, what are your thoughts? Where did he go? He left in episode 3 back to Okinawa. So a little confusing because in the first episode when he's doing the chop, which is a callback to Critic
Yeah,
2.
yeah,
Hello. Um, uh Daniel goes, go back to Okinawa, Kumiko, your
yeah,
dojo.
yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, Daniel says dojo, he and doesn't really say anything about that, like, I don't have students or whatever. So I'm thinking, yeah, what about his dojo? Does he have students? I don't know. So there's a
That's a
lot of
good question.
questions.
Yeah, like I'm not really well, and as Amanda points out, like he came here to kill Terry Silver, and months later he's still sitting here. So it's like,
Right.
does he have a job? Like, but he
Yeah,
also says there's nothing back for me in Okinawa. So
right.
I assume he doesn't have a business or anything there that like, because he says there's nothing there for me, So uh, presumably he's been able to, spend these months on the LaRusso's, couch or in their guest room, uh, without having to worry about like, you know, tending to his affairs back in Okinawa. So it'll be, obviously we want him to reunite with Kumiko.
Do you?
We I do.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course I do. I love that he drunk dialed her and told her he loved her and all of that. And
I
of course
did.
we learn that she hasn't called him back. So
Right.
presume
2 months.
obviously that can't be the end of it. Like I feel like isn't part of why he's going back maybe to you know
Yeah, it's something
to
that
see her in
Amanda
person.
says, about like the people that are still here with us, and kind of make
Yeah.
like the most of it kind of thing. So
Yeah.
he's kind of rethinking, all right, yeah, because I was thinking about that too. I was just like, what if that's the journey that they want to send him on is to pursue that relationship with Kumiko. The reason like I don't think I need it is because like I just don't think everybody needs a happy ending, and I would be okay if they just remain friends.
Yeah,
Like because
I just want
yeah.
them to talk again,
Sure.
and
Yes.
like whether,
Yes.
they don't he doesn't have to like sweep her off her feet if that's like I want them to have that closure, whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
So
And but like it's been 4 decades, and so yeah, he almost tried to kill her, but she can see the change in him, right? Like
exactly.
she went
Yeah.
out and found him after he left the village, so like she still has something for him there. So I
Yeah.
won't discount that, but yeah, because Eugene and I we've had that talk, and I just told him, I go, need it. I was like,
Yeah.
like I would love to see her back. Maybe they're both at Johnny's wedding, something like
Oh,
that.
that would be sweet. Yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
date, and like they
Yeah.
don't have to, get married or
I
whatever.
just think he
So
needs that closure, however it is, whatever
yeah,
it is. I think that's
absolutely.
fair.
Yeah, yeah. Kristen, this was fun as always. If you just want to just kind of just read down your list one more time, and we'll have you plug, your where people can find your work and go from there.
Sure. So my first was Daniel driving, seeing the Cobra Kai sign in the trash. Call back to season 1, episode 2, when he first saw Cobra Kai was back in the valley and had like a PTSD flashback. Johnny, the snooty realtor, calling Johnny a degenerate, obviously call back to him being an ace degenerate. The slumber party, where, Johnny gets the idea from hearing about the nonstop drama at Allie's slumber parties. And then in episode 4, when Daniel tries to tell Anthony about the time he got spaghetti spilled all over him, and Anthony is not listening. And then there's one in episode 5 where Aisha, they mentioned that Aisha got into UC Santa Cruz. So justice for Aisha somewhere, wherever she is.
A little name
um,
drop. Thinking about Aisha, this is kind of a weird, like, how did you go from Aisha to them? But Trey and Cruz in jail,
oh,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
did they do anything? Or, did they run into Silver? Because I don't know, that was June. Was that Juvie?
I feel like it would be Juvie, but I'm not sure.
I think they're older because Johnny and Daniel went to go visit them in season three.
That's
I
true.
think that was prison. So it's possible, possible we see
Yeah.
them in prison with Terry Silver. Who knows? I when I interviewed Owen Hart, who played Gabriel, the guy
Hmm.
who shanked Priest. He kind of thought it would be funny if the first time we see Terry Silver, it's Gabriel trying to take his Jello. I think that would be great.
That would be
So,
really funny. That would be
yeah,
really
yeah.
funny.
Okay, so the list that I had was when in the flashback we saw Tori draw the mermaid princesses and then
Hmm.
call back to her dressing up as one in season four. Johnny in the pawn shop and skips out on the entire total of I want to say the bill, but anyway, Daniel has to pay for that like he did at the bar in season four. Robbie jumps in line of fire at golf and stuff, just like Daniel did to Allie. Brooks playing Pac-Man, which could be a callback to Dimitri's suit, and Chosen taping up Shane Page like Daniel, like Miyagi does to Daniel in Karate Kid. So it's just for me, I think it's because we cut into that's how we cut to that scene, and the
Yeah.
first thing we're seeing is the tape, and so it just made me think of like the Karate Kid,
Yeah.
because it opens up the same way. Um, Dutch, Dutch got to mention,
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
little
And of
Stevie.
course, and we didn't talk about this, but Stingray is back.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I I really they got me. I really thought
I
Johnny
thought
was
it was
heavily
Crease.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
well, no, I was like, there's no way that's Kreese.
So who'd you think it was?
That was my first reaction. What threw me off was the recording. I go,
Yeah.
this is still not Kreese. Like there was
Yeah.
something I was just like, this is too misleading. But I loved Stingray is kind of what that gives Johnny that realization that Cobra Kai is John Kreese's legacy, not his.
Yeah. Not
And so
his.
I love that. Again, this is Johnny, his hamster wheel is spinning.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's
And
like
he's
he's
thinking he wants to move on to a new phase of his life and put that whole thing behind him,
yeah,
including, and Cobra Kai being, like he said, yeah, that's not his legacy, but he's got to defeat it one more time.
that's it. That's it. Yeah, I really like that. And if that's the last time we see Stingray, I'd be okay with that. It's a good, it was a very meaningful, last appearance. So
Yeah,
because
no,
I've been listening to a lot of the other content creators, so like speculations and stuff, and a lot of them are kind of mentioning Kyler, and I think very few of them are making that observation that Kyler isn't in a lot of these other like the dojo picks and
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
whatever. And so I also wonder, is that the last time we see Kyler? Because again, another meaningful appearance
yeah, a
this
send
season.
off. I think it might be because certainly maybe they bring him back in future if they do spin-offs or things like that. But I think he got to have a great fight. He got to be funny. And he gave Miguel like some legitimately good advice, even though I loved how he was like, my dream, I could have gone to a top party school. Instead, I went to a safety party school. I should have, focused on my big dream, but he was able to, pass that and that wisdom, such as it is, on to Miguel. So I think that would be fine if that was his last, like I think that's a nice send off for him. And we know that he's going to get to go be king of the castle at some other frat, where
Right,
he's
right.
not going to be serving as the human vacuum.
I would be okay. Did you see Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey?
I did not.
Okay. At the end of that film, there's a sequence where, they're at this event and it's televised, worldwide, and you get to zoom in and all these different families from all over the world and they're watching like this big old speech. What if we have a moment like that at the Sekai Tekai, whether it's, a victory or whatever, and they're cutting to everybody, and then you see Kyler at the frat, he's like, yo, I taught them
Yeah.
karate, like something stupid like we had
I
a
would
meaningful
love that.
moment,
That would be so smart.
but you
Yeah.
go out the Kyler way, like say
Yeah.
something just completely ridiculous,
Just
like
ridiculous. Yeah.
more like the school goes to me, I'm saying, no, I mean, what? School goes
He's
to
so
you. What?
funny. I love, yeah. So good.
All right. I just love talking to you. I know I tried
I
ending
know
it
we
like
could
five
talk
times.
for, we could keep going, but I'm sure we'll have another chance,
Oh,
or
absolutely.
perhaps two more, over,
Yeah, at least two more. I would love it. So I believe you post mostly on X. If you want to give your handle for people to kind of follow, for these
yeah,
upcoming pieces, or
I'm
or
on, I'm at Kristen G. Baldwin. And then yeah, on EW.com, I will be posting, some Cobra Kai content, including once everybody's watched it, they can read the postmortem with the spoiler questions, both with the big three, and then I have an interview with Sean Kanan as well.
amazing, good stuff. For me, if you guys don't already follow me on X, I'm at Cobra Kai Pod, and on Instagram at Cobra Kai Companion, Companion spelled with a K. And yeah, if you guys are just now finding the channel or the podcast, go and check out some of these other episodes I've done, interviews. And I don't know when this episode's out, but if it's not already out, here's a tease. Brandon H. Lee, in-depth interview with him, either available now or coming out soon. So there's a little incentive to go and follow me on the audio podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel. So as always, thank you for your continued support, and I'll catch you next time.